Yo, this is Sammy Callahan, the Callahan Death Machine, what I like to call the bestest in the world today. And you're watching Wrestling with Regret. Not with an R, it's the W before the R, so it's W-R, Regret. W, Regret.
We can all agree that for the most part, WWE in the mid to late 2000s really sucked. I mean, there was Katie Vick, Exploitation, the Vince McMahon vs. God storyline. These are just some of the biggest examples of the company scraping the bottom of the barrel for some of their key storylines. But in my opinion, the man responsible for some of the worst during this time period is one man and one man only, Donald J. Trump. Before we go on, let me just say for the record, this is not meant to be a political statement. This video is not an attack on his politics or whatever offensive thing he said this week. Simply, this is a look at what he has done in his time in WWE. So please, all you Trump fans out there, leave your angry comments at bay. WrestleMania 23, Detroit, Michigan, 2007. Bobby Lashley and Umaga battled it out as surrogates for Trump and Vince McMahon. Whoever lost the match, the businessman he represented had to get his head shaved in the middle of the ring. But before we get to that, we have to go back a couple of months. Monday Night Raw, January 2007. Vince McMahon decided to pop himself on this fateful night and take one of the biggest piles of shit ever seen in the ring since Andre the Giant let loose on Bad News Brown by booking a match between a fake Donald Trump and a fake Rosie O'Donnell. See, Trump and Rosie have been having a war of words for some stupid reason IRL, and since Vince and Trump were friends in real life, Vince decided to give himself a laugh with this match. But what Vince found hilarious, actual sane people thought otherwise. Simply put, this is one of the most unwatchable moments of the year. Not because the people involved couldn't wrestle, far from it. They're both legitimate workers. The guy who played Donald Trump is Ace Steel, the person who trained CM Punk. It's just this whole match was dumb.
Too much weight! And the count and...
That's really the best way you could describe this mess. Dumb, 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 dumb. Man, it was dumb. The longest, dumbest 6 minutes in history. 9 if you include introductions. And speaking of intros, listen to Rosie's music compared to Donald's. Golly, it's like I can't figure out which of these two individuals is really close friends with Vince McMahon. I'm surprised he didn't just hire somebody to walk behind Rosie and play the tuba. This match was just one big inside joke between two old rich dudes, a never-ending series of fat jokes and hair jokes and lesbian jokes, all ending with Donald picking up the W. Now, if this match were an isolated incident, it'd be remembered as the product of a stroke, some bizarre fever dream by Vince McMahon, but no, this led to some far more sinister stuff. Fast forward to when the real Donald Trump showed up to chastise Vince for the stupid parody, leading to the Battle of the Billionaires at WrestleMania 23. And I have to admit, when you ignore the god-awful parody match, this storyline was actually not that bad. Trump versus Vince had an ideal formula, a prominent pop culture figure with actual drawing power getting one over on an egomaniacal Vince. Forget who was involved in the actual match itself, because everyone else has. Forget that Trump was lousy on the microphone.
Do we love Bobby? Do we love Bobby? I think Bobby is gonna kick your guy's ass.
The moment of Trump and Bobby Lashley shaving Vince McMahon bald at WrestleMania was a huge moment. It made national headlines. It helped WrestleMania 23 break the record for the biggest buy rate in company history. That's because Vince understands that sometimes a McMahon has to play the fool and lose a battle every now and then. You hear that, Steph? Trump, a sentient pile of glazed ham, wasn't seen on WWE TV for some time after this, but from the moment Vince lost his silver mane, the chairman went on a rampage, taking his aggression out on Bobby Lashley and eventually winning the ECW championship, which led many a wrestling fan to pull a Darth Vader in episode 3. Now, back in the real world, Vince McMahon was actually receiving an honorary doctorate from Sacred Heart University. This is true, and so on TV, he would refer to himself as the Doctor of Extreme. I can only imagine how many backyard wrestlers jumped up from their couch screaming, "Trademark infringement!" Vince held the championship for 35 groan-inducing days, somehow making his brief run with the WWF title in 1999 seem legitimate by comparison. For several weeks, the character of Mr. McMahon was dead, setting in motion a storyline that would have featured Linda McMahon being outed as Vince's killer, Mr. Kennedy revealed as Vince's illegitimate son, and he and Triple H feuding over the McMahon family empire, only for Vince to come back and admit he faked his death all along as part of a power play. That could all have been really cool in theory, but then, well, you know. The elaborate soap opera scheme had to be scrapped because real-life tragedy got in the way. In August of 2007, Mr. McMahon made his triumphant return, only to find out he'd been slapped with a paternity suit. Oh, so they did keep the illegitimate son gimmick. Alright, cool. That means Mr. Kennedy can be elevated to this really intriguing spot in the card and have this feud with Triple H. What's that? Oh, my mistake. They went with Hornswoggle instead. Which was fun. After months of tough love from Vince, the big payoff finally came when Finlay revealed that he was actually the little bastard's father, culminating in a Belfast brawl against JBL at WrestleMania 24. So to review, in the span of less than a year, Vince McMahon fought for the ECW championship, pretended to blow himself up, and was tricked into believing that Hornswoggle was his son, all because this guy wanted to shave him bald. Thanks a lot, Donald. For the next year and a half, Trump's influence was largely absent from WWE programming. Vince did his $1 Million Mania contest, but he didn't need Trump's help in order for it to be a dumb waste of time. Vince kayfabe sold Raw to his one-time nemesis, the Donald. That move was ridiculous enough on its own, but then WWE doubled down on the stupid by issuing a legitimate press release announcing the purchase had been made, which promptly led to a 7% drop in WWE stock. To be fair though, how could they possibly have known this was going to cause drama? How could they have known that this fake, nonsensical purchase with a sketchy business mogul backed by a legitimate press release would cause such backlash in the business world? The publicity stunt was bad, not only from an entertainment standpoint, but a financial one as well, forcing WWE to abandon yet another long-term storyline. The angle wrapped up 1 week after it began on the first ever commercial-free episode of Raw. Though I question just how commercial-free this show could have been when it was just peppered throughout the night with product placement and outright commercials. Not only did Trump do away with traditional commercial breaks in this episode, he also gave away the main event for the upcoming pay-per-view 1 week early and promised to refund the fans in attendance. Just cuz! I kinda wish they did that for this year's WrestleMania. Vince was livid that Donald was making decisions that would bankrupt WWE. A perspective that made no sense because why would the former owner be on the hook for the bad financial decisions the current owner made? And repurchased the Monday night show for double what the corn dog with a wig bought it for. Which then led to what is truly the worst part of Trump's WWE legacy. Guest hosts. In his brief time as owner of Raw, Trump promised fans that celebrities would come by and host the show, and the idea stuck. And for 5 long, miserable years, fans were treated to some of the worst celebrity cameos the company had ever seen. Dozens of actors, athletes, political figures, and pop culture phenoms who couldn't have cared less about what they were doing on this bizarre show their agent signed them up for.
We will ban you from the Summerfest.
You can count on one hand the number of guest hosts who were actually entertaining, but beyond those exceptions, the guest hosts have been one of the consistently terrible things about WWE for the last several years. And yes, Virginia, we can thank Donald Trump for that. This man polluted WWE programming with his mere presence, was at least tangentially connected to some of the dumbest things to come across our airwaves in the last 10 years, and I'm not even factoring WrestleMania 4 into the equation. So after all that, for leaving a spray-tan taint on WWE, just how did the company reward this overflowing neon orange colostomy bag? And Hogan's wiped from history for saying the N-word a couple of times? I'm out.